Our good friends at Victoria Miniatures recently sent us some of the pre-release copies of their new Rough Rider miniatures. So we've called in the cavalry today. We have Thomas in studio, and he's going to show you some great tabletop-ready and tabletop-plus techniques to get these fantastic sculpts on the tabletop and looking great in no time. Now you can paint your horse in any color you wish, and there's some great options in the expanded 90 color speed paint range, but we're going to start this one off with some warrior skin. This is a nice light ruddy brown color that really does work well for that reddish brown horse fur that is quite common. Next, Thomas is going to add some satchel brown to his palette. He's going to use this to begin basing in the tail and the mane of the horse. This is nice because it's a slightly darker and a slightly more opaque option compared to ruddy brown. The two really do work together. That's something that you can come to expect from the speed paint range, is with the expansion of color, you're going to have nice options within the same tonal family. I'm just going to wrap up this section by just painting in the hair around the hooves. Just take your time here and try not to paint any of the areas that aren't fur on the horse that you previously painted in warrior skin. Grim Black is a staple from the speed paint range, harkening all the way back to its initial release. Thomas is going to use this here just to start basing in the leather straps on the horse. We're moving on to hardened leather. This is a fan favorite color. Thomas is going to use this to begin painting in the ropes on the reins of this Rough Rider. He's also going to use this to start basing in some of the cloth and details on the miniature. This new 2.0 formulation dries a bit quicker than the original iteration, and this has a lot of bonuses because it dries quicker. It helps to allow you to go ahead and paint back over or correct mistakes a little bit later, so you can do that much sooner. But at the same time, because it dries quicker, you want to be precise with your application. You want to make sure that it's not pulling up too much as you're applying it to the model for the first time. We're moving on to bony matter here, and Thomas is just going to use this to paint in this the cloth around our rider's head here, the tunic or turban that he's wearing. And this is a nice color because it's a nice soft brownish tan color. He's going to repeat this by using it to block in some of the clothes on the rider as well before moving on to Ancient Honey. This is a really nice yellow from the expanded speed paint range. He's going to use this to start basing in some of the apparel on the model. We'll use this on the horse's armor as well for a nice unified theme. And going back to hardened leather, we're going to use this to start basing in the boots on the miniature. Now, when you're painting your models at home, it's important to remember that you can use any color that you wish. This is just a nice example that Thomas is putting together for your viewing pleasure today. You can see as Thomas is going in and finishing blocking in the rest of this miniature, it's really beginning to come together now. These models by Victoria Miniatures are loaded with detail, and you really can see that as Thomas begins to finish off some of these details with hardened leather and also Grim Black that he's using on some of the pouches, details, and of course the lance that the model is wielding. The Speed Paint range is the first to introduce a one-coat metallic paint, and these one-coat metallics make painting true metallic metals faster and easier than ever. Thomas is using enchanted steel here. He's going to apply this to the spearhead tip of this lance. He's also going to use this to pick out some of the other metallic details on the miniature. The Speed Paint metallics behave quite a bit differently than their colored counterparts. They do flow the same, but instead of offering a three-tone shift in color when applying that, because of the metal flake that's used, it offers more of a two-tone base coat and shading in one application. And we're just about finished with this initial tabletop ready phase of this tutorial, and I think Thomas is doing a great job. He's just going to apply some sand golem here to the base, which is fitting for these desert scorpion themed Rough Riders. Give that a second to dry and go ahead and grab some Grim Black or your matte black War Paints acrylic and just simply paint the rim of that base and you're ready for battle. Now we're going to paint another one of these desert scorpions from Victoria Miniatures' latest release, but we're going to take this a step further. We're calling this Tabletop-PLUS. So this is when we're going to use speed paints to apply those base coats, and then go back and add some extra effects and techniques later with Warpaint's acrylics. Go ahead and pause your screen now to take a look at some of the paints that we're going to be using in this phase. To take this model to Tabletop-PLUS, Thomas is starting out with some necrotic flesh, and he's going to use this war paint to go ahead and begin highlighting some of the horse's armor. We recommend using a wet palette when you're using acrylic paints to keep those paints fluid and workable and keep them at the right consistency. When you're highlighting your miniature, you want to work with a thin paint so as not to obscure detail. Next, Thomas is using some arid earth from the war paints range, and he's just going to use this to tidy up and highlight some of the hardened leather painted bits. The hardened leather is a very nice yellowish brown, so this is the perfect color to just add a very simple highlight. We'll repeat that process with scaly hide. Now, if you feel that you've ever taken your highlight a little bit too far, you could always mix in a bit of your acrylic with the previous speed paint to just make a nice smooth transition and go back and highlight again. Thomas is going back to the arid earth, and it's still workable because he did have it on his wet palette. He's just going to use this to add a simple highlight to the mane and tail to the horse. This is the perfect acrylic to highlight the bony matter base coat. One of the best named paints in the war paints range is making an appearance here. Troll Claws is being used to highlight up some of those leather bits. Moving on, we're going to grab some tan flesh, and we're going to use this all over the straps that were previously painted in Satchel Brown. Tan flesh is a great color to use as a highlight for any leather, whether it's a gun holster, a belt, or the straps that you see here on this horse, especially if it is a deep brown leather, because it gives a nice worn, realistic appearance as if the leather is almost cracking due to use. Thomas is using some uniform gray here from the war paints range. This is one of the staple paints in the war paints range because it is 100% color match to the color primer of the same name. It's a very versatile neutral medium gray. It's a very versatile color that can be used as a solid base coat to paint up to white or as a highlight color to blacks and deeper grays. Now, Thomas has some quick shade dark tone. He's just going to use this to go over and pick out some of the rivets and other details on the miniature. He's also going to use this to paint in the eyes of the horse, which makes for a super simple effect. He's using some matte black here to work up some of the deeper recesses and details on the face before grabbing some barbarian flesh. He mixed that in with some of the arid earth on his palette to begin highlighting the flesh tone on this Rough Rider. Using plate mill metal, he's going to pick out some of those details, especially the rivets that he previously gave a light wash of dark tone. And he's just going to find all the metal pieces and apply a very simple highlight. Take your time here, you don't want to miss anything as you go. We've got Troll Claws again, and Thomas is just using a dry brush here, a small dry brush from the Wargamer brush range, and he's going to apply a very simple dry brush to the base. Using black paint, he's going to go ahead and finish off the rim. It's one of the most satisfying aspects of miniature painting, isn't it? Now finish off your miniature by applying a few tufts from the Battlefield's Tufts range, and you're ready to go. Now here you see our completely speed painted tabletop-ready miniature, and it looks fantastic. When using speed paint, you really are just painting inside the lines, and it makes miniature painting fast, simple, and fun. So getting your models ready for your next game and on the tabletop in record time is easier than ever before. But you can see with just a few added techniques, it takes your model from tabletop-ready to tabletop-plus, which commands respect from your fellow gamers across the tabletop. If you haven't tried speed paint yet, what are you waiting for? The most versatile one-coat painting solution on the market is available in-store and online everywhere. To find a local retailer, learn more about speed paints and the entire range from The Army Painter, please visit www.thearmypainter.com.